what's up? It's the 73 EST. Now, to all my subscribers, first of all, who subscribe for all those silly videos where I pretend to be an idiot and mistake Left 4 Dead for Killing Floor or something like that, please stay subscribed because I got more videos like that coming up. Don't worry, I even have one finished. It's going to come up later this week. I just want to spread my videos out a little bit. Now, the video you see on the screen right now is some Counter-Strike gameplay. If you're a fan of SOCOM, I highly recommend it. It's formatted in a very similar fashion, 1 life per round, and it's very hardcore. I recommend it highly if you're a SOCOM fan. Now, the topic of this video is going to be why I think there won't be a SOCOM HD remake, and what I think the future of the SOCOM series will be. Now, first of all, I think I'm just going to mention, I'm going to make a list of all the Sony-made Remake HD collections. We got God of War Collections, Sly Cooper Collection, God of War Origins Collection, Ico and Shadow of the Colossus, Jak and Daxter Collection, and Ratchet & Clank Collection. And then the one that inspired this video for me is the Killzone HD Collection. Now, I read a forum post saying after the Killzone HD Collection came out, or it was announced, I'm not sure if it's out yet, I know it's announced for sure, somebody posted, Killzone has its HD remake, surely SOCOM is next in line. And that got me thinking, is Sony truly going to make this HD remake? We've been talking about this for months now, and honestly, I don't think it's gonna happen. There's a few patterns all these collections follow. All these collections are single player only, and now you may say Killzone has an online mode, not the HD remake. The HD remake, they stripped the online mode out and they made it strictly single player. Another pattern is all these games aged well. If you look at Killzone, it looks nice. If you play Ratchet & Clank, it feels like it's a PS3 game. If you play the PS3 Ratchets and go back to the PS2 Ratchets, they play very similarly. You can say the same thing for God of War, and even God of War looks great graphically. Sly Cooper looks great graphically and plays great. The same cannot be said for SOCOM, at least in my opinion. I don't think the SOCOM single player holds up very well, and I'm not even mentioning the graphics. They're alright, but they're not the greatest. They're definitely worse than all those other collections, in my opinion. And the single player campaign, compared to modern day games, in my opinion, it kind of lacks. Now, I mentioned that none of these have multiplayer, and that's the main thing about SOCOM that everybody wants, is it's the multiplayer. And I also want it. I want multiplayer too, but it seems to me that Sony is having troubles either putting this multiplayer on, or they just feel it's not worth it. If you think about it, the PS2 has this complicated, like, I don't know, network setup screen. I don't know how it exactly works because I'm not a developer myself. Maybe it is possible. I don't know. Maybe Sony just doesn't want to do it, but that's them to know and us to guess. Even if they did manage to get this multiplayer to work, they wouldn't change anything in the multiplayer. They would just up-res it. They wouldn't fix any of the glitches. They wouldn't fix any of the exploits. People are still going to be ninja hopping, going through the map, soft spotting. All this is going to be in the game. And there's nothing you can do, because I have an example right here. If you play Ratchet & Clank Collection, and you choose to play Ratchet & Clank, the original game, #1, and then halfway through you decide, oh, I want to play Ratchet & Clank Up Your Arsenal. You press start and you go to quit, you can't do it. You can't quit to the main menu, you know what I mean? You can't quit to that and switch to Up Your Arsenal. It's just not possible. You can't do it. You have to reset the system or reset the game. And that just, to me, that proves to me Sony isn't looking to redevelop these games or tweak anything. All they do is up-res it. That's all they seem to be doing. Even like some of the cutscenes, they don't even up-res the cutscenes. They just up-res the gameplay, and I think that's what they're doing. I don't think they would go back to SOCOM and fix things up. So what am I trying to say? What does this have to do with anything? Well, obviously the original context, but there's another context to all this information too. The review scores. And why, you're going to say, I don't care about review scores, why do they have to be good? To me, SOCOM is SOCOM, I like to play SOCOM. To Sony it does matter because casuals don't buy games with shitty Metacritic scores. They just don't, it's a fact. They won't buy this game if the review score is bad. Selling this thing on brand name alone, it's not going to happen. We don't have enough diehard SOCOM fans that are still interested in SOCOM. To many, SOCOM died years ago. And, you know, I'm going to be lenient with this number, and I'll touch upon the number a little bit later, but I think there's at most 500,000 people left that are diehard SOCOM fans that would buy this game on day one because of the name alone. And that's not going to be enough for a disc-based release. I think there's a lot of, I think Sony wants to capture this casual market, and it's not going to happen. Just think about it. If the game is glitchy, if the game looks ugly, if the game, it doesn't play as good as modern day games. And if you look, Uncharted 3 is getting 10 out of 10s from reviewers. How would that compare with SOCOM? These reviewers are not going to like this SOCOM. They're going to say it's outdated. They're going to say a lot of bad things about it, and the sales won't be good. I don't think the sales would be very good at all, actually. And I mentioned this number, 500,000 people. I think it's going to be even less. I think a lot of SOCOMers have moved on, because you have to think about it. A lot of people are saying, look at these declining sales statistics, and they're using that as a correlation to the lack of quality in the newer games. And you know what? Maybe that's true. Maybe the sales are going down because the games are getting worse. But I do feel that part of the reason why sales are going down is because back then, when SOCOM 1 and 2 were out, those were the only options for fully featured online games on the PS2. You were not going to get a game with text chat, voice chat, lobbies, stuff like that, with all those guns, customizations. You're just not going to get that on those back then, during that time. Towards SOCOM 3 era, I think games like Call of Duty 2, Call of Duty 3 were coming out, and people were kind of migrating to that already. And by the time PS3 came out with SOCOM Confrontation and SOCOM 4, you're not going to steal Call of Duty's audience. There's just so, they're so dedicated to that. And I know, I know someone who's moved on from SOCOM to Call of Duty, and they've forgotten about SOCOM. They never look back. There's people that went to Battlefield 3 and are never looking back. And I think there's a lot of people like that we aren't accounting for. So, sure, maybe 2 million sales of SOCOM 2, maybe 1 million of them. I don't even think half of them went online, to be honest, because back then a lot of people played games for single player, believe it or not. And there's just, I don't feel like, I think half a million people is a very lenient number. Now I'm going to move on to the future of SOCOM, because we've kind of concluded, at least I have, that there's not going to be a SOCOM remake, but I don't think the series is over. Just look at Tony Hawk Pro Skaters HD. It's a new game in the Tony Hawk series that play identically to Tony Hawk 1 and 2. These games play so well, and they were from fan demand, because the last couple of Tony Hawk games, they kind of sucked. They were far from the original games, and people were mad. But it took some time for the brand to die down, and people to kind of forget about those mishaps to make this Tony Hawk Pro Skaters HD game. And I really think that Sony is going to be looking to do something similar to that. They're going to make a game that plays exactly like SOCOM 1 and 2, and has newer graphics, because in all honesty, I think it would probably be easier for them to remake this game and not feel dated than to go and port this online game and fix these glitches. I really think that's the case. And I mentioned the brand. When you ask an average gamer what the SOCOM brand means to them, they're either going to say, I don't know what it is, or SOCOM Confrontation, I heard that game was shit, or SOCOM 4, I heard that game was terrible, something like that. That's what they're going to tell you, and Sony doesn't want that. Sony doesn't want to release another SOCOM game because of its bad rep. They're going to wait for the brand to die and then release an HD version, and when I say HD, I mean like a total remake with the new assets, new stuff like that. And I don't think it's going to happen for PS3. I think it's going to be on the next system, and that's just my thoughts on the future of SOCOM. So that's about it. Throw the video a thumbs up if you liked the video. And don't thumbs it down just because you disagree. It's only my opinion. Post a comment in the forum or in the comment section below what you think, is the right course of action, or what you think is going to happen. I'll try to get you a response. And that's about it. Please subscribe, because I'm trying to build an audience here, and I want to feel like, when I post a video, somebody's going to be watching it. And check out some of my older videos, you might find them funny. And I'll leave you with one last thing to think about. Warhawk came out for PS1, and it was a good game, but it wasn't really necessarily a fan favorite. No one was really begging for a re-release or a remake or something like that for the PS3, yet Sony went ahead and they made an awesome online game. And I have hopes they'll do the same with the SOCOM series down the line. And that's about it. Thanks for watching.